Welcome to this Masterclass Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today for this high-energy, deeply analytical session. Look, we are going to completely decode the examiner's mindset. We're giving you the ultimate, battle-tested strategy for mastering the purpose and limitations of a trial balance within your Cambridge AS and A-level accounting syllabus. We are taking all the guesswork, all the stress out of your exam preparation, and replacing it with pure, proven strategy based directly on official examiner reports. If you've ever felt like you're putting in the hours but not seeing the grades, you're in the right place. We are going to completely transform how you approach this paper. Okay, let's dive right into this powerful and honestly pretty stark warning from a Cambridge senior examiner. It completely sets the high stakes for why you desperately need the exact strategies we're unpacking today. The examiner states that most students leave easy marks on the table. Why? Simply because they completely misunderstand what the grading rubric is actually looking for. Think about it. So many candidates focus entirely on the math, making sure the debits and credits balance, and they completely neglect the analytical theory behind the trial balance itself. They think a balanced sheet means a perfect score. No way. But by the end of this explainer, you are going to see exactly how to secure those elusive, top-tier marks that separate the good students from the absolute elite. Today, we're following a precise 5-part academic playbook: the trial balance trap, the 3 cognitive test domains, the method mark strategy, executing critical analysis, and finally, the top 3 examiner warnings. Let's start with Section 1, the trial balance trap. Now, what's really fascinating about this slide is that it reveals the core trap set in the exam room. It's a simple but devastating pitfall. Students write way too widely without going nearly deep enough into the structured reasoning. Let me give you a scenario. Think of 2 typical students. We'll call them Alex and Sam. Alex is highly technical, right? Knows every single formula but struggles with open-ended evaluation. Sam is a creative thinker, strong at arguments, but loses track of structure. When asked about the limitations of a trial balance, Alex writes down a superficial list of 10 basic facts, just rapid-fire bullet points. But Sam takes a different approach. Sam takes just 2 or 3 profound limitations and rigorously explains their exact impact on the business's financial statements. Who scores higher? Sam does, every single time. The academic assessment framework explicitly prioritizes that analytical depth over Alex's superficial breadth. So this brings us to a critical question. Why is evaluating evidence and drawing conclusions so incredibly hard for candidates? Examiners ask themselves this literally every year when they see students just completely freeze on the higher order evaluation elements. It usually comes down to misinterpreting the command words. Students see a complex, high-tariff question, we're talking 9 to 15 marks, and instead of evaluating, they just explain. They provide a descriptive list instead of an evaluative, nuanced argument. They treat a to what extent prompt the same way they treat a basic explain prompt. Understanding exactly why this cognitive overload happens is your absolute first step to ensuring you don't fall into the exact same trap when you are sitting under those fluorescent lights in the exam hall. Moving right along to Section 2, 3 cognitive test domains. To unlock those top-tier marking bands, the crucial point you must grasp is that successful candidates have to demonstrate competence across all 3 of these distinct cognitive pillars. It is not just about knowing what a trial balance is. That's merely the first domain, basic knowledge and understanding. Any student can memorize a definition. But you also have to show systematic analysis of exactly how that trial balance works in a live scenario. And finally, you have to execute an evaluation of its overall effectiveness and limitations. Listen, if your exam answer only hits that first domain, your marks are going to hit a hard, unbreakable ceiling, no matter how beautifully you write. This table brilliantly illustrates how these cognitive domains scale up rapidly in difficulty. Think of it like leveling up in a video game. First, you have knowledge. You must demonstrate the established principles, the basic rules of double-entry bookkeeping. Then you level up to analysis. This is where you do the systematic processing and interpret the relationships between different financial accounts. But to unlock the highest marks, the absolute peak of the grading rubric, you have to cross over into evaluation. This means judging evidence quality, looking at alternative approaches, and making heavily justified recommendations. It's the difference between saying the trial balance checks arithmetical accuracy and saying while the trial balance verifies arithmetical accuracy, its quality of evidence is fundamentally limited because compensating errors can remain completely hidden, rendering the final financial snapshot potentially misleading. See the difference? That is your roadmap to an A-star grade right there. Let's transition to Section 3, the method mark strategy. Okay, before we solve the absolute hardest part of this entire paper, I need to pause our session for a quick second. If you are serious about cracking these examiner codes, you need to hit that subscribe button right now for our channel, Ace the Exams, IGCSE, O and A levels. Make sure you turn on all notifications. Click that bell so you never miss one of our weekly Cambridge Breakthrough strategies. We are dropping high-level tactics like this all the time. All right, let's get back into it. You must remember that you are rewarded heavily for your process. In complex trial balance problems, you earn crucial method marks by extracting texts and tables accurately, interpreting those relationships, and showing your evidence-based conclusions step by step. If you just jump straight to the final answer without showing your systematic working, you are literally throwing away massive amounts of points. The examiner desperately needs to see your brain on the paper. So here is the exact non-negotiable 6-step procedural framework you need to follow sequentially. Think back to our student Alex from earlier. Alex struggles because he skips steps 1 and 2 and jumps straight to execution. Don't do that. First, rigorously deconstruct the question. Underline the command words. Second, extract the specific data from the stimulus materials. Third, select your analytical framework. Fourth, execute your analysis with clear, precise notation. Fifth, verify your results against the initial constraints of the prompt. And sixth, this is where our other student Sam often drops marks, present your final answer using rigid, correct professional terminology. If you memorize this exact sequence and apply it like clockwork, you will never ever get lost in a complex accounting scenario again. By locking in these practical application skills, you are directly developing the professional traits the examiners are actively hunting for. They want to see that you can apply the correct formats flawlessly, use the appropriate accounting terminology without a second of hesitation, and evaluate financial performance accurately. This isn't just about passing a standardized test anymore, guys. This is about demonstrating that you possess the rigorous, technical mindset of an actual accounting professional. You have to walk the walk and talk the talk on that exam paper. Which brings us to Section 4, Executing Critical Analysis. When you are evaluating evidence, you absolutely cannot just take data at face value. You must rigorously apply this 4-part checklist to uncover the true quality of the information. First, identify limitations. For example, think about an error of complete omission. This is where a transaction is completely left out of the books. The trial balance will still technically balance, which makes it look correct, but it remains fundamentally wrong. Next, spot underlying assumptions. Then find alternative interpretations. And finally, and most importantly, explicitly assess and state how these hidden errors skew the final financial conclusions of the business. You have to connect the error to the ultimate impact. That right there is what true top-band analytical depth looks like. To score maximum marks in any comparative analysis on this paper, you must explicitly identify both similarities and differences, and you have to link them using strong comparative connectives. Words like whereas, conversely, or in contrast are literally your best friends here. Please, don't just list the features of 2 different approaches in separate paragraphs and hope the examiner figures it out. You have to compare them directly. And remember, you must support every single similarity and every single difference with hard evidence extracted straight from the stimulus material. Do the heavy lifting for the examiner. Make the connections crystal clear. Let's wrap things up with Section 5, the top 3 examiner warnings. These are the specific roadblocks that trip up thousands of candidates every single year, pulled straight from the principal examiner reports. Mistake number 1, confusing cause and effect. Students constantly mix up why an accounting error occurred with how it actually impacts the trial balance totals. Mistake number 2, forgetting format and presentation. Remember, accounting is a rigid discipline of structure. Sloppy presentation literally bleeds method marks. And mistake number 3, providing answers that are not specific to the context given. We need to look a lot closer at that last point, because honestly, it is a massive, grade-destroying trap. If you only take away one single thing from this entire masterclass, please let it be this massive alert right here. Context is absolutely everything. The classic heartbreaking mistake is a student writing a perfectly memorized, totally generic textbook answer. If the exam question is specifically about a manufacturing business struggling with inventory errors, you must explicitly link the limitations of the trial balance to that exact specific scenario. Generic theory earns minimum marks. Applied theory earns maximum marks. It's really that simple. Now, to make sure your mind doesn't just go totally blank under the immense, sweaty palm pressure of the actual exam room, use this quick memory hack. Take the first letters of the key conceptual terms you need to remember for the purpose and limitations of a trial balance and create a custom mnemonic. It can be a silly sentence, an acronym, whatever works for you. Why do this? Because building these mental shortcuts allows you to instantly retrieve the foundational framework. That frees up your precious cognitive energy to focus purely on the hardest parts, the high-level analysis and the contextual evaluation. All right, let's bring this all together. You now completely understand the 3 cognitive domains, you have the method mark strategy, and you know exactly how to avoid the top examiner warnings. The next step is all about execution. You need to practice your past paper questions applying these exact frameworks. And listen, crushing Cambridge exams requires incredibly consistent strategy. So hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels right now. Turn on the notification bell so you're alerted for all our future exam hacks. And drop a comment down below with your target grade for this year. I want to see you commit to it. So I leave you with this. Knowing the hidden traps and possessing the 6-step procedural framework, how are you going to systematically extract maximum marks on your next trial balance scenario? Get out there and start practicing.